With so much national content out there, we're going to circle back today on a topic that I've talked about really for months and months, but it's been a few minutes. The elephant in the room, SGC 10s versus PSA 10s. Stick around. Hello to all my sports card collectors, investors, all of my collectibles friends. How are we doing? It is another day. It is another card video, and it is National Week. Who's pumped? I know a lot of people aren't going, so you're probably like, I don't care, dude. I don't care.
Silence, you furry fool. I've had it with your whining and bumbling.
If you're new here, please hit that big red button down below. We appreciate your support very, very much. If you like it, hit the like button. And also don't forget to connect with me on IG at SportsCardDad. And I'm also on the Twitter on occasion, going back and forth with folks, the Sports Card Dad. All right, before you guys get all worked up about me talking about SGC, they are a new channel partner. So yes, I am fairly biased, but what I will say is I've been talking about this for months and months and months. I don't really understand why we have 4 very competent grading companies in the space, that there's so much focus on one of them, PSA. And look, of course there's a place for PSA. They've got a solid brand. They've got a long-time company. It's not taking anything away from PSA. But the disparity between the amount of cards being graded by PSA versus the other companies, to me, it just doesn't make sense when they are quality companies, really to me, 4 of them. But a big reason why I partnered with SGC is really over the last 12, 15 months, they have been an absolute powerhouse, picking up really a lot of the slack where other companies have kind of fallen apart, frankly. Other companies have been way behind on backlog, shutting down, etc. SGC has just been trucking along and delivering great value all the way through. The other piece that is really the most important thing to me when I'm looking at grading, and I know it's not the most important thing to everybody, I know for a lot of people, all that is cared about is PSA 10. That's the only thing they care about. How do I get a PSA 10? Will it get a PSA 10? And that's really it. I care about consistency in grading. I don't like it when I see a lot of different videos, a little different vlogs, where it's like, reveal video, and you can't really tell the difference between a 9 and a 10. It's like flip a coin and it's a 9 or it's a 10. I don't like that. I've seen a lot of videos for other grading companies where that's really the case. Whereas with SGC reveal videos, I'm seeing a lot more of, okay, well, that's actually where I thought that it was going to come in, an SGC 8 or a 9 or a 10. And it also depends greatly, too, if we're talking about modern cards versus vintage cards. If we're SGC 10s, PSA 10s, when we're talking about really 1980s and before, those are very hard to come by. I'm talking more on the modern card side with SGC 10 versus PSA 10. Elite Co 3, a great channel, a guy that I've watched for a long time. I've been trying to get him on. We've been going back and forth. Still haven't nailed it down. We're both just really busy with a bunch of different things. But eventually, Elite Co 3 will come on for an interview. It'll be fun. But he has talked a lot about SGC being just very, very consistent. And this guy has graded more cards over the last, 15 plus years than the majority of the hobby. And so I take his word for it. And this is not just him, but there's plenty of others. And that's why SGC has really picked up steam, grading over 100,000 cards last month, and they just continue on. Peter, their CEO, is always out front. He's on interviews. He's doing all sorts of things. He's likable. How crazy is that? A CEO that's actually likable. You feel like you can relate to him. He's honest. He'll say like, hey, we're doing well here, but we have a lot to improve on in these areas. I like that. That's what I want to hear from a company. And frankly, not even just sports card companies, any company, you rarely see the CEO out front like that. So for me, just a lot to like about SGC and the brand that they're offering. They've been around for 24 years. A lot of people don't realize that this is an older grading company. It's not a brand new company that just popped up over the last year. And so for me personally, I'm going to be doing quite a bit of grading with SGC over the next 12 months. I think that raw to grade is coming back. I talked about it on a video here about a week ago. Will I send some cards to PSA? Yes, I've got a handful of cards actually that I think are probably suitable, better suited for PSA for a few different reasons. And who knows, maybe I'll use other grading companies as well, but just hard to turn away from SGC's value proposition. Which brings me to my next point. I will be looking very, very hard for SGC 10s at the National, as well as just moving forward. I always do anyway, because when I see an SGC 10 sell at 50%, 60%, 70% of a recent comp for a PSA 10 on a modern card, let's also differentiate 80s cards and going back. A lot of those comps are very, very close. There's not enough content around this. There's a lot of content around modern, ultra modern stuff where you might see a disparity. But once you get into vintage cards, or really 80s and back, 80s not really vintage, 80s going back, a lot of these comps are comparable. So please keep that in mind, because I think there's just so much focus around modern, ultra modern when we're looking at sports card content out there. Totally fine. I like that content too, but we're missing pieces of content there. I will be focusing more of my content around. There will be some SGC focused content moving forward that will focus on some of those comparisons, because you always hear in the market today, it's like, oh, well, comps, resale value, resale value, resale value. Well, PSA's resale value is this much higher than SGC. Well, what are you talking about? It depends on the cards you're talking about. And if it's ultra modern, maybe you have a point on some of those, even when it doesn't make any sense. SGC 10s versus PSA 10s. I frankly think that SGC grades ultra modern cards tougher than PSA. And we've seen GemRate data, GemRate.com data that kind of shows this. You know, how many cards Gem go into PSA versus SGC versus the other companies. And so if I see an SGC 10 out there for an ultra modern card, I have more of a comfort that that is a Gem Mint card. Whereas, you know, there's PSA 10 cards out there that have, you know, it looks off-centered to me. Like, should that be a 9? I don't know. As we say, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And look, again, I know there's a lot of PSA people. There's a lot of set registry people. It makes sense. It's a long time brand. If it makes sense for you, then great. And pricing's coming down. So I know, look, if you've got vintage commons and you're on the PSA registry, absolutely that's going to PSA. They're always going to get that stuff because they've got a strong registry set up. It's not to say that there's not reasons to use PSA, but when there's weird stuff in the market like SGC 10s on a card go for 50% or 60% on an ultra modern card versus a PSA 10, that doesn't make any sense. And like I said, not a lot of channels talk about it. I'm going to talk about it, continue to talk about it. I've been talking about it, and I will continue to buy those on the secondary market because they are underpriced, in my opinion. It's silly. It doesn't make any sense. I think what's going to start happening over time, though, too, with SGC really building their brand out, is there's going to be more vlog content around SGC 10s and SGC graded cards in general. You'll see vintage stuff, but I want to see more of that modern, ultra modern stuff. And as more and more of that sort of content comes out, I think that it'll help kind of the overall landscape. Because really, you know, PSA has been the beneficiary of, you know, millions of cards hit their backlog because they were the number one brand essentially in grading during the biggest boom in sports card history. And so they had 10 million cards in their backlog. That's millions of cards that are going out, you know, into the universe. Their branding is everywhere. You know, there's PSA graded cards everywhere. Whereas SGC, BGS, some of the other companies, it just hasn't been for a variety of reasons. SGC has graded a lot of cards, though, over the last 12, 15 months, and they continue on. So I'm excited to see where this goes. Competition's great. You know, I don't want one company that grades 90% of the cards. I don't like it, especially when there's consistency issues that I'm seeing when I'm looking at reveal videos and different things. So anyway, guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I know the grading war discussion is always lively, and I respect your opinion. If you say, hey, look, it's PSA and that's it, that's totally fine. Free will, everybody can do what they want. That's what's so great. So let me know your thoughts on this. SGC 10s versus PSA 10s on the secondary market. Stay healthy, stay awesome, and I will talk to you again later.